Hi, my name is Dinesh and I'm the Spicy Gourmet. Today I'll be sharing with you a really delicious chicken tandoori recipe that comes from the recipe book that's included in the Spicy Gourmet Spice Blending Collection. Before we continue with the recipe, let me briefly explain to you what's included in this gourmet gift package. We have 16 different organic and fair trade spices, a custom designed electric spice mill, and of course our fully illustrated color recipe book. Now to the recipe. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is to create the tandoori spice blend. In order to do this, we're going to dry roast some spices. For that we're going to start with black pepper. We'll put that in a warm pan, and it's of course dry, there's no oil in here. Then we're going to put some coriander in there. Now this is not quite unique, but not readily available. This is Ceylon cinnamon, also called true cinnamon. So we're going to create a little crumble this into the pan. And as you can see, it's already roasting. You can see the steam coming out here. We add some cloves, some cumin. You need to toss this around a little bit so it doesn't burn. To that, we're going to add some green cardamom pods. And that's it. We're going to let that toast a little bit. Now, how long you're supposed to do this for is really a matter of not quite trial and error. Once it starts smoking, it's basically ready. The essential oils have been released. So I believe we can let this be for about 2 or 3 minutes, depending on the level of heat. Right now I have it on medium heat. It doesn't possibly need to be that high, but that's okay. This is an art and not a science. Here we go. I'm going to stir this a little bit and actually just let it cool. Now you can get this delicious aroma rising out of the pan. And some of these seeds will start to pop out of the pan. Okay, I think that's ready to go. Now we're going to let this cool. And once it's cooled a little bit, we're going to add these ingredients to it. This is cayenne. Then we have turmeric, our old friend paprika, and this is grated nutmeg. We'll add these to it. There we are. Now we are going to grind these, but before we do that, we want these spices to cool a little bit. I might actually incorporate these together before we put them in the blender. There we are. That's already quite beautiful, very aromatic. Now that the spices have been roasted and they've cooled, I've incorporated the unroasted spices to it. So you can see, blended these all together. They're ready to be ground actually. So the next step is to portion by portion to grind them in our spice mill. So put some in at a time. I believe that's good for the first batch. I'm going to empty them into a bowl and do the balance of the spices like that until we have all the spices ground and ready for our next step. As you can see, that's a lovely color. That's the kind of color you want it to be, because that's kind of a reddish, and that is because we have included some cayenne and paprika in the blend. There we have it. That's the whole batch. All the spices are ground and we're ready to go on to the next step. There we have our tandoori spice blend. Okay, now it's time to prepare the marinade for the tandoori chicken. To do that, we have the spice blend we prepared earlier, the roasted spices that we have milled. We have some red natural food coloring, just a little bit, some lemon juice, salt, garlic, ginger, and we have about 3/4 cups plain white yogurt, organic of course, and this quantity depends on how much chicken you're making. But in keeping with the organic spices, I'd like to encourage you to use organic ingredients, including the chicken, for this preparation. The first thing we do is, to this yogurt, we add about a tablespoon or so of the tandoori spice blend, along with the ginger and the garlic. The salt, lemon juice, and finally the food coloring. Now, it's not always necessary to use this, but it does give it that very attractive deep red color. We're going to incorporate this, blend it together. So we'll whip it around a little bit. We want to make sure that it's all thoroughly blended together, because what we'll be doing with this is we're going to marinate our chicken thighs, legs, breasts, and whatever joint, whatever cut you like, you prefer in chicken. We'll be marinating those in this delicious tandoori blend. There we are. That's ready. So we prepared the marinade. Now we're ready to incorporate the marinade into the chicken. And before we do that, there's one little thing we need to do, and that is to prepare the chicken. In order to do that, we're going to make tiny slits in the chicken, not so deep that they reach the bone. Just tiny slits like this, 3 or 4 on each piece. You will notice that my hands are completely clean. Please do wash your hands before you do this, because you'll be handling the chicken. And I prefer not to wear gloves, because when you're actually, after you slit the chicken and you pour the marinade on it, you want to try and get the marinade into these slits. And it's a lot easier if you use your bare hands. That's all this takes. Okay, now we're ready to do that. I'm going to pour the marinade onto the chicken. Put all that good stuff in here. Now we're going to rub the marinade all over the chicken, ensuring that a lot of this marinade gets into these slits and they're thoroughly coated. And if you don't feel great about doing this with your bare hands and fingers, you're welcome to wear gloves. It's quite okay. The best thing to do after this is poured on is to let this sit in the refrigerator minimally 3 hours. And if you wish, overnight. I generally like to leave it overnight so that the marinade takes really quite well. There we have it. Time for it to go in the refrigerator. Once the chicken is marinated for minimally 3 hours, then there are three different ways you can prepare the chicken. In other words, to cook it. One way is to broil it, the other is to bake it, and of course you can throw it on your outdoor grill or barbecue. My preferred method is the broiler because it maintains a lot of the moisture in the chicken. So I'm going to throw this in the boiler and then we're going to prepare the garnish. Now for the garnish, we have some cilantro, we have some green onions, lemon, lime, tomatoes, some cayenne or jalapeno peppers, or any other pepper that you might prefer, and the two kinds of onions, both red and your white onions. And what I will do is to prepare the garnish in a certain way. First thing we'll do with the green onions is to chop them like this, about 1 to 2 inches apart. Now with the onions, you really want to kind of cut them into wedges, much as you would with the lemons and lime. And with the peppers, whether they be serrano peppers or jalapenos, I generally like to just split them in two. That should be plenty. And the tomatoes, actually the same way. We're looking at wedges. The only thing that we're going to chop finely, or at least cut a little bit smaller than we do with all these, is the cilantro, which we will rinse thoroughly. You can actually break the leaves off like this and use it for the garnish, or if you prefer, you can chop it up a little bit. Now that we have the garnish prepared, the cilantro you can break into leaves, as I said, or you can chop it up a little bit finer. That's ready to go. Next thing we'll do is wait for the chicken to cook, and then we will incorporate these fabulous, lovely looking, pretty vegetables, lemons, limes, onions, etc. We will use it to make the chicken look absolutely phenomenal. There we are. That is the broiled chicken tandoori. One final step, we're going to garnish this with some onions, some tomatoes, some cilantro, and some green onions, of course, and our friends' red onions, serrano peppers, lemon wedges, and lime wedges. There we are. One final step, actually one final hint, what I'd like to do when I'm broiling the chicken, especially for this recipe, I'd like to use some of the garnish and place it on the chicken in the broiler for the last minute or so, which adds a little bit more flavor. Some of these juices ooze out and incorporate in the chicken. There you have the tandoori chicken recipe prepared for you. I've really enjoyed being with you, your company. I hope you have great success preparing the dish, and hope to see you again soon. I'm Dinesh, the Spicy Gourmet. You may please visit us at thespicygourmet.com and find us on Facebook. Cheers.